listeners. Welcome to the Music Festivals podcast. This is the show that helps you get to know music festivals, festival venues, and campgrounds before you go. I'm your host, Neighbor Nate, and I'm glad you're in the neighborhood. Welcome back, neighbors, to episode number 34 of the Music Festivals podcast. This is the show that helps you get to know music festivals, festival venues, and campgrounds before you go. And as always, I'm your host, Neighbor Nate. And I am super excited about our guest today because they have been producing music festivals and other live events for over 30 years. And they operate a Trifesta of festivals, which is a series of outstanding festival experiences. And you probably know about at least one of them. So I'm going to run through them real quick before we get going. One of my favorite, because it's close to home, is Dark Star Jubilee. And that's held at Legend Valley in Thornville, Ohio. This year it's happening from May 23rd to the 25th in 2025. And that's going to have Dark Star Orchestra, Mo, Warren Haynes Band, Leftover Salmon as headliners, and many, many more bands. And what's ironic is I actually, at Dark Star Jubilee 2024, made the decision to start this podcast while I was videoing Keller Williams and Grateful Gospel with my cell phone. I had this epiphany of like, why am I not doing this? And so that's where this show started, was Legend Valley at Dark Star Jubilee. Another one you might be familiar with is the 4848 Festival, and that takes place at Snowshoe Mountain Resort in West Virginia. This year it's happening from July 17th through the 19th, and that's going to feature Lake Street Dive, Green Sky Bluegrass, the new Master Sounds, and a whole plethora of other great acts. And then finally, the historic All Good Music Festival and Camp Out, which launched in 1997. It's happening this year from June 14th through the 15th, 2025. But this is a new era for All Good, and it's been reimagined as All Good Now. And that's going to take place at the Merriweather Post Pavilion in Columbia, Maryland. So no more Camp Out with that one. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Headliners for that event are going to be String Cheese Incident, Joe Russo's Almost Dead, as well as the Disco Biscuits. And again, a whole series of other lineups. So I am delighted to welcome to the show Tim Walther, who is the founder of All Good Presents, as well as Janice Hurley, who is, and we're trying to decide what Janice's title actually is. She's VIP coordinator, but she's spiritual guide. She's probably cheerleader and everything else. So welcome to the show, guys.
Welcome. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
So you started this concept in your head at the Jubilee?
Yeah, so
Awesome.
I had bought the domain about a year before because I had the idea to do it and then just sat on it for a while. And I was right down in front of the stage and Keller's just jamming with Grateful Gospel and I'm, on my cell phone. And that was where as soon as I got home from that festival, I'm like, okay, I got to do this. And so now we're on episode, I think this is 34. So
I love that.
Thank you. Thank you for the inspiration. It was very
Absolutely.
cool.
Right on.
Yeah. Before we get going, I would be remiss if I didn't say this, but you and I have something very cool in common. I see all these wonderful posters in your background. You collect the festival and concert posters as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've actually, somewhere back there is Dark Star's poster from last year. And this is also, Janice, I don't know if I actually told you this. I have a tattoo of that poster. So that was the one with the wizard kind of walking down the thing. It was a really cool piece of art. And after about 6 weeks, I now have that on my thigh as a tattoo. So there you go. I'm very invested in you guys. But so let's jump into it. Tim, I'm just fascinated with your background as a promoter. It sounds like you read Bill Graham's book, and that was really kind of what got you started. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I worked in the restaurant business coming out of college, and I was always expendable. I was doing a good job, but it really didn't mean that much to me in my soul. And I got fired pretty much because I didn't want to get a haircut. Happy birthday, Mr. General Manager, get a haircut. And I didn't get a haircut and I got fired. So anyway, that's a long story. But, I took a step back and I said, I'm going to go live with my parents for 6 months and just figure this out. What the hell am I going to do with the rest of my life? I mean, I had no experience in the music business. My experience in music business was my experience in a Grateful Dead parking lot. Okay. So, I was like, okay, what do I want to do here? So somehow I got turned on to Bill Graham Presents book, one of the rock legend promoters of all time. And I read a book, Do What You Love and the Money Will Follow. And, I was just churning on that and doing my thing. And going to festivals and going to shows. I started to go to festivals at Wilmer's Park in Brandywine, Maryland, which is where the All Good Festival started. And before I started, I guess I was living with this woman in DC, and her best friend was the lead singer. Her best friend was a girlfriend of the lead singer of God Street Wine. So Low Faber. So Low Faber says to me one night, he's like, so do you want to, or could you work? We don't trust these guys at the Grog and Tankard in DC to work the door. Could you work the door for us? I'm like, sure, that'd be great. Okay. So I worked the door for him. I'm jamming in the front row. I'm loving God Street Wine. I'm like, oh my God, this is fun. I'm kind of working in the music business. Hey man, do you guys mind if I put out some flyers, put up some posters? You know, I believe in you guys. I want to do whatever I can. You know, so there I am putting up, they leave town. They're coming back. You know, I start putting up like 8.5 by 11, you know, pastel colored flyers that I ran off on a printer, just like hitting the colleges, hitting them hard, hitting, you know, 5 or 6 colleges in DC. And then going to shows, going to all the club shows I could, going to those festivals at Brandywine, really just promoting God Street Wine as kind of a favor to those guys, and something that was exciting. You know, I saw their business was growing with me. I wasn't the main cause of it or anything, but I was helping on the ground, on the street, getting the word out. And after a couple of years of like, you know, case of beer here, $50 here, $100 there, they actually that's not even true. They didn't pay me, but it got to a point where they didn't pay me anything. Like I got to be like a groupie or whatever. But they were going to the Bayou in DC, and Cellar Door was a promoter of the Bayou, and I think it's Kevin Gordon. No, I don't know. I don't get his name right in Philadelphia. But anyway, the first check I got was for $75 from Cellar Door, and that was for doing the street promotions for God Street Wine Show at the Bayou, and that's where it started. Like maybe I can do this for other bands. Yeah. You know, and I was starting to, so then I would warm up to the next band. I'd be like, oh, I saw you guys play tonight. You want me to, I could put out some street flyers for you. I'm not really charging anything. Just give me some tickets. You know, so I started doing that with a number of bands that were coming through. And I think my company being just me, maybe we made $700 in year one. Yeah. I think the whole year come going. And you know, then I was going to those festivals at Wilmer's Park in Brandywine, Maryland, and the shows I was going to, they just weren't running them very well. I was like, are you kidding me? Why are you treating people like this? I heard that people aren't getting paid, and you know, I'm seeing things just go awry. And you know, coming from a management background in the restaurant business, I was like, I can do this. You know, I can do this better than that guy. Why don't I try to do this? So I got up the gumption, and you know, I talked to, I mean, I was already working on the street for all these bands. I was like, hey guys, I want to try and do my first festival at Wilmer's Park. And, you know, I can't afford to give you this huge guarantee or anything. You got to work with me kind of thing. So my first festival, the Full Moon Music Festival, is pretty much of a co-op where the bands played for me for very low guarantees. Like if I made some money, I'd give it back to them. It's kind of, they didn't get paid much. I didn't make any money. We threw a festival, and you know, we put ourselves on the map. And then for the Full Moon Festival, I realized that in year 2, you know, the Full Moon Festival is all about having the full moon at the festival. So in year 2, I realized that we're going to be chasing the full moon every year, and that our dates were going to be changing, and then it wouldn't be at the festival. And you know, this is, you know, rocket science. So anyway, at that point, let's call this the All Good Music Festival. You know, when I was on tour with the Grateful Dead, they were, or not they, us, we were, you know, just hanging out in the parking lot, going to the Dead shows, you know, vibing with each other. It's all good, brother. It's all good, sister. You know, just that kind of, it always made you feel good, because you could be like having a bad trip or just having a bad day, and somebody's like, it's all good, brother. So that's where the name come from. Just came up with the concept that, hey, we'll call it the All Good Festival, and then everyone will be all good all day.
Yeah. That's
That's
amazing.
where it
Like,
started.
I really well, it's interesting to hear you talk too, because like the more people I talk to, like people who get into the music industry at the start, a lot of them, it's a labor of love. If you're not one of the bands, like if you're not a
Right.
musician, you get in because you're passionate about it, you love it, you don't make any money. I'm not making any money on this. Um, but it's interesting to hear that you started like that and you had that going. So where was the transition then? Like when did you, after you did that and you're breaking even maybe, like festivals are expensive. How did you keep going year after year after year?
Well, I had some really strong investors,
Yeah.
Visa Card and American Express. They worked really hard for me. Um,
Yeah.
so there was one point where I had a $200,000 budget, and I had $150,000 out of my credit card. I didn't have. I mean, I started with $300 in a fax machine. I literally had zero money at the beginning,
Yeah.
and uh, I was able to pay my credit cards on time, and I was able to, of course, in the U.S., they want to give you as many credit cards as you'll put to use. So I had like 14 credit cards, and it's a longer story, but I've come close to going out of business 4 or 5 different times in my career. And one of the times was when I had 15 credit cards maxed out, got $150,000 in debt. I did really poorly on a festival. So I'm like, all I'm doing is paying minimum payments every month and trying to make it,
Yeah.
make it to the next show, so to speak. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
No, that totally does, because I mean it's also a testament to the fact that you kept going, which is interesting to
right.
me. Like a lot of people would have pulled the plug, and yet you still had to have the people coming. I mean, talk a little bit about that first festival, about how many people were there, and then how did you get them coming back, and how did you start to grow? Because it's a lot of word of mouth, I have to imagine.
Absolutely. And that's where that's where my street promotions came into play. I mean, back in the 90s, you don't have social media.
Yeah.
You barely have computers as far as getting information around. Um, None of the bands that I work with had record labels because they weren't selling records. So the only way to get that information across to people really was by handing out flyers. And I was relentless. I mean, if anything, I was tenacious. And I literally, people don't believe me, but I literally handed out 2 million flyers by myself, one at a time, person by person, for like 5 years. I was everywhere. I was every club show, I was every festival. I was just everywhere. I was traveling up and down for my festivals. I was traveling in the whole region, going to everything. Like in a given night in the Baltimore, DC area, I'd go to a show based on the timing of the events ending. So it'd be like a show in Virginia, and that ends at like 10:30. I hit those people. Then I'm up in DC at 11:30. I'm hitting those people walking out the door. And then I'm up in Baltimore at the 8 Foot Ton Club at 1 a.m, handing out flyers and hitting those people. And then I'm going to the colleges at 2 a.m. and putting up flyers on the street poles and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just like, getting my ass kicked with street promotions, but loving it, because
Yeah.
my philosophy was, that every flyer I put out was building my business, and that's how I just kept going. And I this was my thing. Once I got in there, I was like, this is going to work no matter what. And I think that's a good thing about America is you have that opportunity to build something from the bottom up. And
Yeah. And it's easier to lose sleep and work your ass off when you love what you're doing, right? Like if you really love
absolutely,
what you're doing, that's awesome.
I had nothing to lose at the time. I didn't have wife and kids. I did move out of my parents' house after 6 months, um, but I could get by. I had no problem um, taking care of myself. As far as like on the Grateful Dead tour, it was all about how do I get to the next show. It's like,
Yeah.
Sierra Nevada's 1 for $2, 3 for $5. Come back a week from now. You can have one now. You can have one 3 days from now, and then you come back next week. I'll give you a third one for $1 because I'll remember you. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just like getting to the next show was a concept on tour of the Grateful Dead, and getting to the next show is the concept with my business, because it's
Yeah.
like I want to get to the next festival. How do I do the next festival? If I don't lose so much that I go out of business, then I can get to the next festival. And
That's awesome.
that's kind of where my mentality was. And I really didn't make money on a festival for like 8 years. I mean, besides paying my bills and paying my rent, didn't make any significant money for 8 to 10 years into it.
Yeah. That's kind of it's a very tough. I'm finding it's a very tough business because a lot can
Right.
go wrong very quickly, and you can lose it as quick as you make it. So let's fast forward to today. You clearly have been successful with this. We've got three major festivals up. Talk to me a little bit about like the overall organization of All Goods. So how do you guys work? About how many people are involved? What does it take to put on three festivals that, mind you, are like back to back to back? So the logistics of that have to be crazy.
I tell you, we got a very small and powerful team. I guess I'll go back for a minute and go back to, say, All Good Festival 2010, when we have 300 security, 400 volunteers, 75 department heads. You know, I think it was 1,200 people in total were either volunteer or on the payroll. We're doing 23,000 people, and we're out in the middle of nowhere. We've built a small city on top of a mountain in West Virginia, so it's a different animal.
Yeah.
I have myself and 3 full-time employees. So we have 4 full-time employees, adding Janice plus 5 as far as like, doing a lot of consulting, and, she's just good at everything. So kicking in everywhere that she can. And, we've been doing this for a long time. So, my one guy, Mook, does all the production. He's at almost every show, and he's advancing with the bands, and he's doing the contracts, and he's being the liaison with the bands, and all the bands know him. They don't know me. They're like, Tim who? And they're like, where's Mook? So
Yeah.
that's kind of his position. And there's Jeff Hunter, and he's been with me Mook's been with me for 20 years. Jeff Hunter's been with me for 15 years. He does all the marketing. We've got a new guy here, Aaron, that's just kicking ass in a lot of different directions, expanding my business. But to answer your question, I would say we have 4 full-time people doing these 3 festivals. At the Dark Star Jubilee, for instance, we have, I'd say 30 employees, probably 30 security on top of that. So It's just a much smaller ball game than it was with the All Good Festival. But it's lean and mean. And these people know, they've all worked 20, 50, 75 festivals. Like these people are in the industry. They know what they're doing. So every person I have counts for like 3 or 4 people.
That's amazing.
And, it's family. So we're all family. We're all watching out for each other. It's just, and that's the core of this whole thing, is that we're all one piece. We're all one organism. It's just like people, the fans, the crew, the bands, us as a staff. It's just like we're all one. And as long as we're communicating and operating like that, then we have the special vibe that we've created. And that's a vibe that we think that really is the backbone of the Trifesta.
That's cool.
Because like we've said in advertising, it's like, why does this feel like All Good? They'll say that about 4848. Well, it's because All Good is producing this event.
Yeah.
And it seems very simple. And it is fairly simple. It's just about being real and about being good people. And it's about treating the fans like they're your best friends. Like I always say that department head meetings. It's just like, we're working and we're going to have a lot of fun working. These guys are coming to their vacation, so we want to spoil them. We want them to feel like they're on vacation, and they're always right. And let's do everything we can to create a great space for them.
That's awesome. And Janice, I see you nodding over there too. Like
I was like, it feels so good, because it's true, and you can't fake that. And every fan that comes to every one of our events, they're like, what's happening? Like, something's happening. And I was like, I always say there's no rocks in our river, so our river just flows. Like, there's no egos in anyone on our team. Like, if somebody needs a hand, we're right there to help them out. And you don't see that all the time across the industry, right? So what we have is really special. And then that translates through to, like Tim was saying, into the Trifesta. Like, when we started to talk about the Trifesta concept, and we're like, okay, we've got 3 festivals, 3 settings, and the 3 things that are consistent within those festivals and settings are our essentials and our signatures. And all the stories that Tim was sharing earlier, and tying that into the team, and then tying that into the fans, it's like those essentials are celebration, kindness, and community. And I can't think of 3 better words to translate what All Good really is. So
yeah, Well, and let's dig into this Trifesta, because I think a lot of people know of each separate festival, but like you said, don't
Yeah.
know that they're produced by the same company. So starting with Dark Star Jubilee, again, this is one of my favorite festivals, especially because it's like 45 minutes from me.
Nice.
But how did that end up at Legend Valley? Because if for anybody else that's listening, the Dead have played at Legend Valley many times, right? There's famous
Right.
shows from the Dead there. So how did you guys, was that involved in picking the venue? How did you land there?
Well, I don't know if you know that I'm also the manager of Dark Star Orchestra, the band.
Okay, all right. Well, that makes a lot of sense then. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
no. I've worked with them. I was the first guy to bring them over to the East Coast in 1999. Like they were
Yeah.
branching out of Chicago. I think I'm going to I think I'm going to digress for a second just because it's kind of interesting. So, the agent called me and said, "Hey, I got this great Grateful Dead cover band coming out from Chicago. We're doing this, we're doing that." And I'm just like, I don't work with cover bands. I'm just really not interested. Sorry. And he's like, "Let me just send you a CD. If you listen to it and you like it, call me back. If you don't call me back." So he sent it to me, and I had it playing in the office one day, not really paying attention to it. And I forgot it was a cover band, and I thought I was listening to Grateful Dead. And I'm like, holy crap, these guys are like the real deal. And, I called them up, booked them in Towson, Maryland at the Record Theater. And I've been their promoter ever since in the market. So that's at 26 years. And I've been their promoter since 2008. But to answer your question, as far as Legend Valley goes, so we took the All Good Festival to Legend Valley in 2012 and 13.
Okay.
So that's where we started at Legend Valley. And this same year, the first year that I took All Good there, I was looking to do a festival with Dark Star, and it just made perfect sense to put all our apples in that one basket at Legend Valley. So we had All Good in July and then Jubilee in September that year. It was nice it was nice considering the Grateful Dead had played there back in 87 and 88. And, that lore was really special. And we're sitting there working backstage. We're like, I think Jerry was over here sitting next to a campfire waiting before he went on stage, but not quite sure. Cause there's a lot of, stories that are told about that.
So, yeah. The festival lore that goes around.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we would be remiss to not share a little bit about the very first Jukes, because it was one of the most incredible festival experiences, especially for that community piece. And
Right.
There were some really special things that happened at that festival that really built the foundation and why we're still doing it all these years later.
Yeah, tell me about those.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Yeah. Well, first year, what now is Jubilee, and that massive, incredible stage that is, I think, bigger than the main stage at Bonnaroo, did not exist the first year. We had a pop-up trailer stage that we had, and we also had a second side stage. And when we were originally talking about Jubilee, I remember talking with Tim and being like, okay, so we're building this festival where fans can camp in the bowl, like a few 50 feet, whatever, from the stage. We were talking about the VIP program, and we're like, okay, what's something that we can do that's really cool for VIP? And I was like, we got to put the VIP tent at front of house, And so Tim and I are going back and forth, like, is this logistically possible? Should we do that? Does it make sense? Nobody does that. And we're like, okay, let's do it. And the very first night of the festival, it even from before that, as the fans were coming in, you could just feel this buzz. And I say it to this day, it's like a time capsule. Nothing like it exists in the festival. Like, people who have come the very first year are still coming. We've watched kids grow up from the festival. And that first night of the first year, we knew weather was coming in, and it started raining. And I forget exactly how many inches we got, but I want to say it was like 7 inches or something crazy.
Oh,
it was an incredible amount of water.
Right.
And that the main stage, the stage crew had said, it's just not safe for us to use the stage as our main stage.
So, 6 or 7 inches of rain. the next day, basically wake up 10 in the morning, and the stage is washed out. The owner of the venue's like scratching his head, like, I don't know what happened here. But it's like the drain got clogged. The drain for the whole venue is right at the front of the stage, which is probably not a good place for it to be.
Right.
But that's right where it is. So apparently the next day we found out what really happened, which was one of the guys who was working on the crew was sleeping on a mattress underneath the stage, and then he bailed because of the weather, left his mattress there. The mattress covered the drain.
Oh,
The
God.
drain completely filled up and like compromised the stage. And I was sitting there with Steve Trickle, the owner, and he's like, I'm on with the stage company right now, because like you could see a bow on the bottom of the stage, like that does not look good. And he talked to the stage company, and they're like, nope, you can't put anybody on that stage.
Yeah.
So here we are, beginning of the day, we've got 9 bands to play, and we don't have a stage. We have a small side stage, and what Jennifer was telling you is we've created a VIP deck type of thing, and very much of a show must go on kind of thing, and the I feel like I can usually come up with a solution fairly quickly. I walked around scratching my head for an hour, probably just like walking through the crowd, like they know who I am, and they're just leaving me alone because they know I'm trying to figure this thing out. And I was like, we got to, my goal was to get every band that was supposed to play that day to play something, whether they play, the back of a car, they play at a campfire, they play somewhere. They got to play somewhere, because that's what the band's paid to see. We're all in this together. We're all upset that the stage is gone. How can we make, lemonade out of this thing? And, so we put the headliners on the side stage, and then the middle bands, we started to put on the VIP deck.
Yeah. And this crazy idea worked seamlessly. There wasn't one band that didn't play that day. Everybody played, and it was so cool to watch, because the fans would be watching that small side stage, and then they just have to turn around because the VIP deck is right there in front of the house. So they'd face the front, and then they'd turn around, they'd face the back, and then they'd see the second one. But my favorite part of that was Mickey Hart was playing that night. And when he got to site, his drum tech's back there, putting these different configurations together. And then when someone, finally shared with him, hey, you're actually not going to be playing on this stage. You're going to be playing in this, I think it was a 2540 tent then, back then, much smaller than what we have now. And his first question was, where's catering? And we're like, that's an interesting question. And he wanted to know that because he was going to get pots and pans. Dave Schools was with him on that tour. Schools went and got this parking drum from the parking area. And then we made an announcement and said, if you have a drum at your camp, please go and get it, because we're going to have a drum circle with Mickey Hart. And if you could have seen these fans, if you take fans that just went through 8 inches of rain, place is still wet, we figured it out, we delivered all the music, and then that cherry on top, the level of energy and excitement and just community, it was just one of the coolest nights ever to witness.
That's amazing.
And there's fans just sitting around having this drum circle in a tent.
I mean, so I like to play hand drums, right? I'm a big drummer, and I would have freaked out. Wait, we were going to watch Mickey, and now we get to play with him? That's amazing.
Right.
That's incredible. Some of the best stuff at festivals happens when things go wrong, I guess. But
So we have Rob Courts, our Mickey guy from Dark Star Orchestra, is sitting there pounding right next to Mickey Hart. So we got a dual Mickey Hart thing happening.
That's cool.
It was the best possible headliner you could possibly have that day. It was just
Yeah.
So it's exactly like that. You're right. They remember you remember when the stuff goes crazy.
Yeah.
That'd
be amazing.
And they can see the team pulling together to make it special. Whatever we can do for you to make this work, we're in it.
And they're there to help. How can we help? They want to help you. If we need stuff moved, or we want, we're trying to jostle things around. Everybody's jumping in, trying to help out because they want the show to happen too.
Yeah, cool. Even the attendees and stuff are probably willing to, hey, let's make it happen. This is a community. So let's switch gears to 48 for a second. So this is a different festival. So my family and I ski it at Snowshoe Mountain and love it. I've not been to 48 yet, but this happens in the village with people living. Yeah, it's kind of behind you. And so where is the stage actually behind you? Yeah. Is that the side
So
stage or the main?
no, this is the main stage. This is what we call the sky stage. So if anyone's familiar with Snowshoe, it's basically on the backside of the expedition and the condos that are at the summit. So if you haven't been to Snowshoe, one of the coolest things, when Tim was like, "Hey, I want you to come up to this site visit. I want to throw a festival," I was like, "I don't know." You know, it was my only weekend off that particular year. He's like, "It's really cool. You're gonna love it." And I was like, "Okay, I'm in." And I drove up there by myself at night, and I'm driving through all these switchbacks, and I had never been to Snowshoe.
Yeah.
And I wake up in the morning because I got there when it was dark, couldn't see anything. And when I woke up, I was like, "Where am I?" Like, oh my God, I'm on the summit. Like, and I'm a huge skier. So I was like, wait a minute. Like, there is no resort in the world that I've ever been to where the village is at the summit and I'm waking up in the clouds. And so immediately I was like, okay, I'm in. Let's talk about having a festival here. And what's so cool about where this stage is it's basically at the bottom of what typically is the bunny hill when they have skiing. And so you have this perfect slope, almost like a natural amphitheater. And it's just fantastic, and the views from that stage are just like nothing else. You can see the ski lift going over my head. That's a little funny.
That's amazing. Well, and the thing about Snowshoe is there's all kinds of other stuff to do. I'm a mountain biker as well. They have some of the best mountain biking in this part of the country. And then you guys have events down in the towards the boathouse. There's a lake down there as well. So talk a little bit about some of the extracurriculars that when you're not watching music, you can do other things.
All the music we do, most of the music we do is up on top of the mountain with 2 stages. One stage in the village, which is absolutely unique. Like I've never been to a stage, you know, amongst these like 4-story buildings. I mean, the first time I went to Snowshoe, I felt like I was in like Breckenridge, Colorado or something like that. Cause it's just like, it doesn't feel like you're in the East. You can check out the music there on that stage. You go back and forth to the stages behind Janice over there. And then you can jump on a ski lift and take like a 10-minute trip down on the ski lift. You land about, I don't know, 50 yards from the lake, and the boathouse is right there, and the beach is right next to the boathouse. So you got like this whole outdoor thing going on during the day, you know. So we purposely schedule the music. The main music starts at 2 on top of the mountain. So you got the whole morning and early afternoon to go to the lake to do your beach thing. You know, we'll do like themes down there, like the Big Lebowski and like, you know, I don't know, different drinks and stuff.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of people showing up in robes. It's a beautiful thing with a bunch of old people. You know, but just, I mean, the setting's just amazing. I mean, the deck is right on the water. So you're sitting there in a beach chair and you got your Bloody Mary in your hand. It's 10:30 and you're 48 Snowshoe and there's a lake right there and the music's great. It's a really nice, the whole concept was for it to be a vacation. So what we call it is a festive vacation. You know, everything you're going to get at a festival and a resort vacation. It makes sense. So I need to trademark that name.
Snowshoe tends to be a little bit spread out. How do the logistics work, like in terms of transportation? Is everybody walking, or are there shuttle systems, or how does that happen?
Go ahead, Janice. You got that one.
Yeah, great question. So we're fortunate because there's several of the condos that are right there in the village. So a lot of those are for our VIP program, and then we also have some GA units that are in the village, and then really just a short walk. We just updated this on the website, so it's a lot easier for people to understand, because exactly to your point, like, hey, this is a big resort. If I want to book a room here, how far is it to the stages? And a lot of the other, you know, GA rooms are 0.2 miles walk to the village. So the majority of the lodging is a scenic walk to the village, but then there's also a shuttle system that is run by Snowshoe that stops at multiple places throughout the resort. So if you don't want to walk and you want to take the shuttle, you can still do that. And then we run our Festival Express that runs in the morning from top to bottom. So if people don't want to wait in line for the ski lift, or they want to get there faster or whatever, we've got that Festival Express that just loops. And one of the things that I'll say that's so special about 4848 is how we really combined our teams. So the All Good Presents team works incredibly closely with the Snowshoe Mountain Ops team, all of their teams. And the first year, they hadn't really done a festival of this scale. So we were all getting to know each other and working together. And last year, I'll never forget the feeling that we had after we were leaving. And we were like, we are truly one team. Like,
that's cool.
We're one giant expanded team between Snowshoe and All Good.
Right.
And again, that comes through in the fan experience. They can see that we're so cohesive.
I mean, I have to imagine that it's a lot of fun for their staff as well to do something so different.
Absolutely.
Right? And then you guys, so I know that there's an RV park. I think it's Silver Ridge. I can't remember the name of it at this point. Is that part of the festival there too? So if you're bringing an RV, can you pull it in and camp at that area?
Yes, you can. It's called Silver Creek. And,
Silver Creek, right? Yes.
They're not that big. There's like 30 RV spots down there. We also created an RV spot on top of the mountain that doesn't have all the power and things, but you're just sitting right on top of the mountain. It's very convenient to the festival, and those tend to go first.
Yeah,
but it's nice. I'm an RV owner, and I think it's a really great RV experience for people.
Yeah, well, and I've stayed in the condos at the top of the mountain, and they're nice, right? Like if you're really looking for that VIP experience, it's worth it because it's a very comfortable stay. All right, so then we have the All Good Music Festival, which was historically the All Good Music Festival and Camp Out. Now it's All Good now. Talk to me a little bit about what drove the move from a camp out to more of a city-based festival, or at least what it looks to be a city-based festival.
Well, the All Good Festival itself, we did 17 years, and it came to a point that we moved a couple times, and some things didn't quite go our way there at the end, and we ended up retiring that back in 2015, and I felt like I just needed to take a break from the festival world at that point. I had done, I don't know, 50 festivals or something, and I was just like going to give it a little breather. The All Good Festival was, the All Good Festival was a monster. It became a really big event. Worked 90 hours a week for every week for 15 years. Wow. I was ready for a little breather. So I just, there was a couple of years that went by before I, my lawyer actually for Marvin's Mountaintop, lives in Pocahontas County, West Virginia, and he's just like, you got to bring all, like right when All Good in. He's like, oh, well, you can bring it here. You can bring it up here on top of Snowshoe Mountain Resort. I'm like, okay, we can camp about 500 people up there. So it's not going to work. We're trying to move 18,000 people.
Yeah.
So anyway, I kept turning on that idea. He kept hitting me up every year. And finally, after 3 or 4 years, I went and talked to the people running the place, started to get a sense of, okay, what could we do here? The lodging, something a little smaller, something a little more boutique. And that's how 4848 really came to play, where they worked with me on the arrangement, and they were on top of a mountain as a place to follow up from Marvin's Mountaintop. And, we felt good about the boutique size of festivals that we're doing at that point. And campouts were, the peak of the campouts were also, the peak had already hit probably around when we dropped out in 2015, and all the campouts have been going downhill ever since, unfortunately. People's lifestyle, people's age, the kids in their 20s don't want to camp, which is when we all camped, and the kids in their 40s and 50s and 60s don't want to camp because we've already done that and we're over it. So after a long period of time, I didn't really have a sense that I would bring All Good back. I kind of felt like it had its day and it was retired and is what it is. I mean, there's always something in the back of my head, like, what if, can we do a 10-year anniversary out of Marvin's Mountaintop? Can we, what could we do? And as 10 years approached, we're really integrated here in Baltimore, DC. We're doing 100 club shows a year, working in some of the best venues nationally. IMP, as a promoter and producer, they created 930 Club. They've opened the Anthem. They're behind Merriweather Post Pavilion. They just recently opened the Atlantis, a small club. So they're great partners with the best venues out there. And with the relationship with them and with the relationship with our fans, I mean, we have 120,000 people on our newsletter email list, and these fans have been going to our shows for 20 years. It just all made sense. We're coming up on 10 years from 2015. Things are going really well in these venues. The jam band scene is kind of morphing from, in my opinion, maybe I feel like I'm a little bit ahead of the curve because people are still doing camp house. I'm just like, it's time to transition to the 2-day event at Merriweather Post. Merriweather Post it's got a second stage. It's got like 5 or 6 acres of symphony woods that's within the grounds. So you get that kind of outdoorsy festival vibe going on out there, and it's the perfect spot for this type of event to evolve into there. And I really didn't want to, we came out of the gate, we didn't want to sell this as the All Good Festival. This is not the All Good Festival that, we kind of referred to All Good then, and we've referred to All Good Now. All Good Now, that was camping. And, this is like you commute from 20 minutes away, or you come in from out of town, you crash with your friends, or you drive your RV up, or it's more of a commuting festival.
Yeah.
And you can come and go. People can come and go. They go back to the house, come back the next day, fresh and ready to go. It's just a different setting, a different scene, and I really think it's what people want right now. And our tickets are selling like crazy, and I think it's showing that this is what people want.
Well, it's interesting. We live in the days of Uber and Airbnb and Vrbo and all these places where it's way easier to find places to stay rather than just, you have to know somebody and crash on their couch. Are you guys partnering with any of those organizations and working with that? Because I have to imagine they're going to love it, right? Like Airbnb is probably going to be blowing up because of you guys.
Yeah, my other life, I've been in the travel industry for 25 years, so I used to work for Vrbo and all of them. And when we were talking about 4848 and wanting to make it easier and find discounted lodging for our fans, I actually looked into a couple of new platforms that started over COVID. And there's some really cool concepts, and I saw some others that were partnering with other festivals. So we actually have a partnership with a company called Crew Fair. And so if someone's on the All Good Now website, they can see the hotel tab, they click on that, and then on behalf of the festival, Crew Fair goes out and they negotiate the lowest rate possible for the hotels that are closest to the venue. So we got really lucky with that partnership. It's been great, and we're super excited to be able to provide that as an amenity. They don't currently have inventory for short-term rentals yet, but clearly everybody is well-versed in how to go find an Airbnb now, so they can easily add that on.
Yeah. Well, and it's really nice because you go to a new festival, like if you've ever been there, that's the thing you're worried about is, am I going to stay in the right place? How do I handle logistics? How am I going to get around? The fact that you guys have kind of a concierge available to help with that is awesome. So what else can fans expect, especially, if they're going to Merriweather for the first time? What should they be thinking about when they're planning their trip? What should they expect when they get there?
I think they should expect that, it's going to feel like All Good. Like we're going to, it's going to be real. It's going to be warm. It's going to be friendly. Everybody's welcome. Everybody's part of the team. Let's have fun. We're going to bring a little razzle dazzle. We bring our stilt walkers, some simple things like flags and festoons and just make it festive. And, we feel like everybody, maybe we'll give a participation badge to everybody as they come in, just like we want everybody to feel like they're participating, and we're going to try to kick that up through promotions and then deliver once people get there. And the bands we got are just amazing. I mean, they're all excited to be coming back. The bands that have worked with us in the past from All Good Festival days and all the new ones that are breaking, they're I'm so excited myself to, that's a luxury of being a promoter where you get to book the festival that you most want to see yourself.
That's cool. Yeah.
I got my ticket.
That's awesome.
The fan experience at All Good Now, without giving much away, because we want them to be surprised when they get to the site. But, at any of the past, any All Good festivals, the deco, the feeling, the vibe, all of that is just so unique and so cool and so fun. And to be able to marry that with the Merriweather amphitheater, and because that in itself is just cool anyway, right? Like it's just such a great venue. And so to have that as our base and for us to be able to build that vibe onto it, it's just like the perfect marriage of awesome.
That's awesome. Well, and as a festival goer, like I get excited when I know that I'm going to an inaugural festival. And yeah, there was the All Good
Yeah.
then, but
Right.
people who get to go this year are going, they're going to get to say, I was at the first All Good now, which is kind of
Right,
a
right,
new
right.
era of this. And I think that's super special as well. So again, we've got
Yeah, we're
Dark Star.
excited.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Dark Star Jubilee, May 23rd through the 25th in my backyard, Ohio at Legend Valley. We've got 4848, July 17th through the 19th at Snowshoe Mountain Resort. Beautiful venue. And then June 14th through the 15th, and I got those out of order. But June 14th through the 15th, the historic All Good Festival is now All Good Now, and that's going to be at Merriweather Pavilion. So these are three festivals that I hope everybody has on their radar, and they should remember that they are the Trifesta, right? So this is all good, and these are all the same folks doing it. I imagine you guys in between the months of May and July are not going to sleep all that much at all because it's a lot of work. So,
I think that time's already started.
right?
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you guys doing this today, and hats off to you, Tim. Amazing career in this. Just hearing your stories, it kind of gives me goosebumps because it's like, yeah, that's what it's about. You get into this shit because you're passionate about it and you love the music and the vibe and the energy that goes between the bands and the fans. And now you've built something amazing out of it. So hats off to you, man.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nate. So you've been to the Dark Star Jubilee, you've been to Snowshoe Mountain. Now you got to finish your Trifesta and make it to All Good Now.
Right. That's gonna have to be the next tattoo, right? My next tattoo, the Trifesta.
Yeah, there you go.
So, cool.
Nice.
Hey, thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you guys.
Right on. Thanks.
Awesome.
Talk to you later.
Thanks, Nate.
And that is all we have for this week, neighbors. I very much enjoyed talking with Tim and Janice about the Trifesta and all the festivals that All Good Presents is doing. And I do want to mention before we go, we didn't talk about this, but they are doing pre-parties in and around DC and Baltimore before the All Good Now Festival. And some of those bands are going to include parties with Sam Grisman Project, Andy Frasco and the UN, ST9 with Lotus. So make sure that if you are going to go, head there a little bit early and check out some of the pre-parties. I think you're going to have a really, really good time. If you follow the show, you know that we do drawings for free festival ticket packages, and our friends at All Good Presents have hooked us up with what I think is a very special package. It is a Trifesta package drawing, so you can actually win tickets to not one, not two, but all three of the All Good Presents Trifesta festivals, and that's valued. That package is valued at $1,500. So to get your chance to enter to win those tickets, along with all the others that we have for you, head over to the website at musicfestivalspodcast.com. You're going to look for the tab at the top that says Win Festival Tickets and click that. It'll take you to a page where you can enter to win that Trifesta package, again, valued at $1,500, along with all the other festival giveaways that we have. So make sure you do that. When you enter, you'll also be subscribed to the neighborhood email newsletter, and that comes out each week. You're going to get the most recent podcast episode, along with festival news and announcements and other great music that's happening across the country. And subscribers to the neighborhood also get access to discount codes from our other partners that give you deals on cool products and software from our partners. And those include Outdoorsy.com, Inikim Scooters, Melted Mind Designs, Cast Magic, CapCut, Opus Clip, and Hoem, and the Hoem iSteady M7 phone gimbal. That's going to be something that you're going to want if you are at the festivals shooting video of your favorite bands. But that is all we have for this week. Thanks again for tuning in. There's well over 7,000 of you now. I just updated the count, and that's crazy to me. But I do appreciate all of you who tune into this. If that is you, please take a moment, especially if you're listening to the audio podcast, give us a rating on Spotify or Apple Music, and I would very much appreciate that. Or just drop me a note on YouTube. I love hearing from you guys. But that is all we have. I appreciate each of you, and I hope to be your neighbor very, very soon. Maybe it'll be at one of the Trifesta festivals.